Afternoon, everybody. We've got head coach Blake Anderson here who will make some opening comments on the signing day class, and then you guys can ask questions.
Hey guys, so we're 23 signing class comes to an end somewhat. I think we all know that it's a work in progress, and with portal additions and subtractions, we could continue to talk about a handful of more guys maybe through the spring and summer. But for now, I feel like that we're in a really good place. We added 9 new signees today. In addition to that, 6 preferred walk-ons, 1 already on campus from here in the state of Utah, and 7 commitment letters to young men going on mission. So all in all, 20 plus players from the state of Utah, and then 9 signees that have not been announced in December signing class. So a couple of these guys are already here on campus, but happened after we had spoken during the process of the holidays. And so we'll kind of go through those today. But we are down to really a full roster, the biggest roster we've had going into a spring practice that I can remember in my career as a coordinator or a head coach. A lot of guys here already introduced, a big group of guys in our first January meeting. But there are a few that we did sign today that have not been here, won't be here until later, either in the semester or in the summer. And those guys include Jacob Hellman, is an offensive tackle from a California JUCO. He is a Salt Lake City, Ogden kid. He's a 6'5" offensive tackle that is here. We were able to get him here after the signing process and during the break, and he is a big, long developmental tackle that we recruited against Coastal Carolina. Took a visit here, and we were able to get him. He's on campus and doing well. He's a Utah kid, excited about what he can do. Reggie Foster, a running back that we signed this morning. He is a running back out of American Heritage High School in Florida. Unique situation with him. I had Power 5 offers coming out of last spring's kind of evaluation cycle. And then if you know much about American Heritage, ended up in a very, very talented room with one of the best running backs in the country who's been fought over by Ohio State and Miami through the entire recruiting process. So his carries went down, but we loved his athletic ability. We think he's a great project at the running back position and think he just needs an opportunity. You know, a kid that can be 200, 210 pounds and can run, just needs to be in the right room. He could have transferred and didn't, stayed put and stayed there and would have gotten a lot more carries that he transferred, but he loved where he was. I think we're getting a steal in him. I believe he's got a tremendous future ahead of him. Colby Bowman, a wide receiver, transfer from Stanford University, and he's not here yet. Will graduate here in early March and will enroll in our last 7-week cycle, very similar to what Calvin Tyler did a couple years ago coming out of Oregon State. But he wants to get that Stanford degree, and we want to be able to allow him to do that. But was a 4-star wideout coming out of high school out of California, out of Bosco, can fly, 6'2", 210, 4'4" guy. He's got a couple years left. Excited to have him. So we will get to see him in spring, but he won't be here for a few weeks. And then the last addition on offense was our last letter of intent to come across this morning in a big, tall, rangy wideout, Arcellus Johnson Jr., 6'5.5", 200 pounds, going to be 210, 215 once we put some weight on him, from a California JUCO out of L.A., high school there in L.A. Visited Nevada and us over the last couple weekends, committed to us this week, signed this morning, and he has a 6'7" wingspan. He's got a tremendous catch radius. Feel like we've really helped that room with the addition of him and Jackson Olson, who we've already talked about. Jackson Olson's 6'3.5", but his wingspan is 6'8". So trying to create length out there and give ourselves both speed. So Kobe 6'2.5", Arcellus 6'5", maybe 6'5.5", and Jackson being in that 6'3" range. Feel like we've done a good job at creating length there. We signed a kicker as well in William Testa, who came from New Mexico Military. He's a kid out of Italy. Who was a freshman All-American at New Mexico Military a year ago. Struggled a little bit this year with an injury. His numbers weren't as good, but he has a huge leg, and he is already here as well. So he enrolled and is here working with our guys. So a couple of those guys will be here later. A couple of them are here now, already working with them. Defensively, we had a kid by the name of Chase Davis. He is a corner out of Dallas, Texas. He was committed to Arizona State. Throughout most of the recruiting process, we'd offered him early and would have loved to have recruited him early and really just got in a position where he wasn't recruitable. But we stayed in contact with him. When Arizona State staff changed over, he got left out. And we were able to grab him late, signed him during the break, had a chance for him to come on a visit after the holiday. And he's a 6'2.5" corner, 180-pound kid that we saw in camps and love just his versatility. Could play safety at some point, but we'll start out at corner. Devin Dye is a safety out of Palomar Junior College that we signed over the break as well. He is here on campus already, started with our guys. You may recognize that last name. His father is Jermaine Dye. He was a MVP of the World Series with the Chicago White Sox during his baseball career. He's got a brother that plays football at Kansas, a sister who may be the best athlete in the whole family, and he visited UNLV and us over the last few weekends of the process and committed with us and was able to go ahead and start this spring. So he is in spring practice with us, and you'll see him during spring ball. Last two guys are Fale Mosley and Vaughn Mamea. They are two big interior defensive line teammates from San Mateo Junior College. Both 300 plus. Mosley about 310. Mamea maybe is close to 330 right now. We're going to trim him down a little bit, but two big interior D linemen. We had some guys leave and put their name in the portal. We expected those things to happen, and we were prepared. Both of those guys are on campus in spring practice and getting acclimated as we speak. And they'll bring size, physicality, and power to the interior. We lose a guy like Coleman at 280. We replace him with a guy that's 300, 310. We lose a guy like Phil, and we bring in a guy that's 330. So we've been prepared for some attrition, and I feel like our staff did a great job having guys ready to go. We are 99.9% done with the class. As I mentioned, 22, I think, total guys from the state of Utah in different capacities, signees, commitment letters, and PWOs, and a really good blend of both high school portal and JC players to fill out the 23 class. And excited about them. Now we got to go to work with them and get them ready. Looking forward to a lot of these guys already being here now and getting a chance to go through spring. I think that is huge for us. But what questions do you have about any individual players or the overall class? We're either on mute or nobody has any questions, which would be
Coach. I'll start.
Okay, there we go. It's going to be the shortest press conference in history.
You can go ahead first, then I'll wait.
Thank you, Al. Coach Brian Phillips with Big Blue USU Aggie News. I've been looking at a lot of the film of most of the signees. One guy that kind of stands out is Kean Sloan. I like his speed. He may need to put on a little bit of weight, but tell me what jumped out to you guys about bringing him in, and where do you think he fits in a potential rotation headed into fall?
I think number one, I think he could be the feature guy at the position. Kean Sloan's tape was the most fun of any guy I watched in this entire recruiting process. We all knew that we had some potential exits coming from our defensive end position. We had some guys that were going to explore the portal and look other ways. And we've seen, I know Daniel has already landed at Cincinnati, and I don't know what's going to happen with Byron, but we prepared early, and Kean Sloan was the best film that I watched, the defensive end. He was an All-American. He's the Defensive Player of the Year, I think, in that region in the California JCs. And what you saw on tape is what we saw on tape. A guy who has an unbelievable motor. He plays harder than anybody we've seen on film. He reminds me of watching Nick Henninger play. He's a little longer. He does need to put on some weight. He's here right now. And his work ethic that we saw on tape is exactly what you see every day in our offseason. He has made an immediate impact. Our staff loves him in the offseason, and I think he can be that every down edge player that makes it really, really hard for quarterbacks because he chases so well, plays so hard. So similar to what you saw Byron and DG do, what we've seen Nick Integer do, we think that Kean Sloan and also Maka Tuakoya is with us as well. So we have planned for these things and have done, I think, a really good job of having really quality players ready to go where the portal has popped up over the break.
Okay, now I'll ask my question. Al from down at KVNU, Coach. I asked you again on December. I asked you about your offensive line, and you said you were still working for it. So obviously maybe Hellman's the one. You played two other guys besides a lot of the starters. Is that enough depth there, or how much do you think the younger guys that have been in the program will start to figure into defensive line besides that?
I don't know who's got their speaker on, but somebody has got a lot of racket going on. Can y'all hear me okay? Is that Bill? Oh, there, guys. All right, so offensive line, kind of what our plan is. Clearly, Jacob is another guy that factors in. He's got the length to play tackle, and we're happy to have him here. He's here now, which is huge, and so he factors in. Jackson Owens back this spring, who missed the entire year with injury. And then, yes, we've got some young guys that are going to have a chance to compete and factor in. We are still currently looking for one more offensive tackle. That is a position we will continue to recruit throughout the course of the spring and summer, and potentially take a veteran player, a portal player. But we do have, I think, a really healthy, good, solid young group of guys that are already here and competing right now. And who knows how that top five ends up.
Yeah.
Somebody, do we have an idea where that noise is coming from? Is there any way to know?
Yeah,
I think it's
looks like
I think it's Bill.
yeah.
I don't know, but somebody else. You can't turn him on.
No, I can't. I don't know.
Yeah, would you please? It's driving everybody crazy. Who's next?
You want to take the time well before, right after.
Jason Walker with the Cache Valley Daily.
You don't want to
You obviously got a lot of freshmen. Obviously, freshmen don't always contribute year one as a true freshman, but are there any in this class you have that could maybe have a chance to be like in the two deep, the depth chart?
Who knows? I mean, I would tell you, the first thing you look at is a guy with speed. So, Zachary Black has got unbelievable speed and juice, and you can see where maybe he would factor in. The running back room is thin, so either one of those running backs and Jaden Bailey and Reggie Foster, you would think. I think Will Money, who's already here, has a very unique skill set as a tight end to play out in space. You would not expect the old lineman to do so. McKay Hillstead is here and going to compete for the job this spring, so he has that opportunity. Defensively, Zion Andreson is here. He's going to have a chance to compete. Man, you never know. I'm always surprised. I mean, even a guy like Jackson Olsen, just because of his length, and the kid ran 4.5 flat for us at camp. He's 6'3.5" with a wingspan of 6'8". He may come in and be the guy. You always have an Ike Larson or, a Robert Briggs that you're not expecting that just exceeds. I mean, Waylon Lapuaho, I don't think any of us expected him to start 12 games at right guard. We did think he was a good player, and we like all these guys, but who's going to be ready? Who's going to need a year? You never know. I'm always surprised at who steps up.
Coach Trent Wood with Deseret News. Is the size of this class, you think, the norm going forward with the transfer portal and just player movement?
I don't know. We helped a handful of guys that were not going to play a lot, that wanted to get on rosters where they could play more. We helped those guys transition portal to locations. And so I think that number may have been a little bit bigger. We didn't really get exploded by the portal on the back end. We did have some key players leave. We anticipated those guys leaving, and we prepared and have replaced all but maybe a couple. But to only have had 10 seniors, 11 seniors in the class, it is a big number. There's no doubt. And maybe this is what we're going to see moving forward. The ability to get to 85 and sign as many as you need to get to 85 helps that. I don't know if that waiver is going to stay in place. If it goes back to only being able to take 25 a year, you're going to see smaller classes. But for now, with the waiver in place, the ability to replace anybody that leaves, if you're prepared and ready, then you have that opportunity, and we did that. Some of these guys, though, taking into account, 7 of these young men are from the state of Utah that signed commitment letters that are going on mission, and 6 other guys are preferred walk-ons. So, the number of signees today is a little skewed.
Coach Brian Phillips again. I'm looking at the wide receivers that you brought in. Talk about where you feel like you'll see Keihanu and Micah Davis fit in.
Well, everybody ought to know who Micah Davis is pretty good because we've seen him score on us a couple times. And since we talked last, he went on to win a national championship at his JUCO. We're going to start both those guys out on the outside and give them an opportunity to compete for starting roles. With Terrell being as solid as he is in the slot, just feel like that position is solidified. Both have played inside and outside, so tremendous amount of versatility. We'll add Kobe Bowman to that mix, and so this spring, try to get as much competition as possible and see how guys develop. I would not rule out a guy like Malachi Keels, who's already here, a guy like Ryder McGilvery, who's already here, Otto Tia. I think this spring is going to be huge, but both those guys will start outside, Brian, and then we will see, if need be, to slide them inside. Now, when we go four wides and take the tight end off the field, either one of those guys could plug inside because both can really run.
Coach, real quick follow-up question.
Go ahead.
I just spaced off. I'm sorry. I apologize.
We're no hurry. Go ahead. Go ahead. You good?
Yeah, I'll come back to it if I remember. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize.
No big deal. Hey, it happens to me all the time. Don't feel bad.
Hey, Coach, I'll ask another one too. Al Lewis again. Since you brought up Hillstead at quarterback, it's not really a recruiting question, but how do you really look at the quarterback position then going into this next year with him?
Well, I told them when I met with them the other day, we had our first meeting. They're going to get used to me. It's going to take a little while. That's fine. That Coop will take the first series with the ones in the spring, and then after that, it is a wide open competition. And the guy that can prove that he can move the ball and not turn the ball over at a high rate is going to have a chance to be our guy. And that'd be super easy and convenient if that happened to be Coop. But if it's not, I think we've got a really, really talented room. And I think all the guys in there add value and have the opportunity to win the job. So we're going to let them compete, but that's no different than any other position on our entire football team. Every single job is up to be won or lost. And so quarterbacks should be no different.
Coach, Jason Walker again. You mentioned Otto T. Obviously, he's a guy already on the roster. How do you feel like it felt like he was kind of a next man up, maybe in the rotation with some of the guys departing? How much do you expect him to?
He's right there. He's right there. He looks absolutely beautiful. He's exactly what you want. He's big. He can run. He can be physical. He can elevate. He's got the hands to do the job. I think he just got to take that next step in terms of his confidence level. He had an opportunity to make a huge catch in the bowl game and didn't. But he's come back ready to work. He has all the physical traits to be a phenomenal player in this league. At some point, you just got to start believing it and doing it. And that's what the spring's going to be for. He's either going to take the next step and we're going to be saying, wow, on a weekly basis, or he's not and somebody else is going to just pass him up. And that's the nature of recruiting and developing. I hope, for his sake, and I love the kid, I hope for his sake, he has a great spring.
Coach Brian Phillips again. I've remembered my question.
Okay.
It was a follow-up wide receiver question. last season, I kind of felt like the wide receiver rotation was kind of tight, not a lot of guys coming in and out. Do you feel like you have, with the guys that are currently on the roster and the guys that you brought in and maybe you're already here, do you feel like you've got enough talent there to maybe expand the rotation a little bit?
Well, we sure like to. Year one, we got away with playing about 6 guys at wideout. And honestly, if you think about it, during the latter part of the season, we were really playing 4 and occasionally a 5th. Last year, we felt like just due to the way the room was and some guys not developing like we'd want, some inconsistency in some areas, you name it, that we only played a few guys. And that's not how we want to operate. We're going to play faster than you've seen. That is going to happen. And when you play faster, it does benefit you to play more guys. I would love to see 7, 8 guys play in the rotation at wideout. Now, they have to be capable. And so we'll have to see who's capable. And you can't have a big drop-off between 1 or 2. So if you look back at our career in this offense, there have been years where 7, 8 different guys called balls. There have been years where 3 or 4 did. This group will determine what that's going to look like. But I would love it if we have recruited the right guys where we can have really 1, 2 at every position and be very versatile and very balanced and spread the ball around more than we have in the last couple of years.
Hey, Coach, Eric Franson with 106.9 The Fan. I know it's a little bit early, but do you have an anticipated start time for your spring ball?
Oh, yeah. We start on Tuesday, March 14th, I believe is the day. The week right after spring break. We'll give them Monday off. I say we won't give them. We will run the crap out of them on Monday, the 13th. Whatever they did over the spring break, we'll try to get that out of them, and then we'll start practice on Tuesday, the 14th. The spring game is on Saturday, April 15th, and that'll be a showcase. I don't know that we'll have the bodies for a game, but we will have something that day on the 15th. Both of those are 2 big scrimmages. Will both be at 1 o'clock. On Saturdays during the schedule. We'll get that out to you guys soon. I'm kind of surprised we haven't yet, but it's ready.
Coach, go ahead.
You
kind of alluded to bodies available. I know you had some guys dinged up and maybe had to get some surgeries after the season was done. Just and others kind of working their way back from injuries. But from the players you've got on roster coming back, how would you describe kind of the health of your team coming into the spring?
Well, it's a big roster, as I mentioned. We added as many as 30 guys to the roster in January. There's a few of those guys being walk-ons, but a bulk of that being signees. A very unique situation to have that many new bodies. But we are dealing with a few surgeries. Parker Buchanan, Turbo, Kessie, a handful of guys that and I'm not even all the way down the list. There are going to be some positions that are going to be thin. I think we have enough bodies to have a really, really good, solid spring competitive period. We don't have the luxury at a couple positions, D-line being one of those, and maybe another position or 2. We're thin. We could get thin quickly if we're not careful. So I don't have the injury report in front of me right now. I just know we are going to be dealing with a handful of guys that are, Robert Briggs still coming off the shoulder. As I mentioned, Turbo and Kessie with foot and knee issues. There'll be a handful of guys that'll miss spring, unfortunately, but it'll be great reps for a bunch of young guys.
My last question, Coach, in going into spring then, you're always wanting to expand and make every position better. You want to have young guys come up and all. But is there a particular room, as you guys call them, that you really got to see in the spring that's going to make your team better, do you think?
And we're 6 and 7. We need help everywhere. It starts on offense with the quarterback not turning the ball over. We led the country in interceptions. It can't happen. So we got to protect the football. Whoever plays has got to be able to protect the football. We got to learn how to throw the ball away and punt. We can't do other people's jobs for them. And it starts up front on the O-line. We got to find five guys that can protect the quarterback and get us ahead of the chains and move the chains. So, the skills positions are a lot of fun, but if the quarterback turns the ball over and the O-line can't protect him or block people up front, it doesn't really matter what we run or how we do it. I think the same thing on the D. You got to be good up front on the D-line. We got to find, with a lot of new bodies, we got to find what that D-line can do see how some of these new bodies can contribute. We have gotten much longer on the edge at corner, and we have moved Dom Tatum to corner, and with the addition of what we have already in with AJ and with Mike out there, with Fusler being here, Jalen Martin coming in later down the road when he's done with school at 6'2". We've gotten longer out there. It has been a position that has been an issue in the one-on-one situation. So those are a few key ones, but man, we need help at every single position, and we got to get better at every single position. And we need a phenomenal spring competitive period to get better.
Coach Brian Phillips again. You just mentioned Dom moving to corner. Do you have any other position changes that you anticipate happening for spring ball, even if it's just like a trial period type thing?
Yeah, let me think. I don't think we do, but I don't want to lie to you, Brian. I don't think we have anybody else that is moving positions currently. I think he was the only no-brainer move. He played corner. We need length there with Malone coming in and Ike developing like he has and Jabbar Strong and the safeties and Devin Dye. We felt like that was a move that needed to happen in his best interest in the team's. I don't know of another move right now off the top of my head, and if I'm lying to you, I'm sorry. I think that's it for now, for spring. All right, appreciate it, guys. We'll see you soon. We got an event tonight. If people are listening, I don't know who's paying attention. An event tonight. If they want to see some film on these guys and ask questions, still got tickets available. I think it's at 6 o'clock, starts at 6 o'clock. And if I'm not mistaken, if they buy a ticket to that, don't they get in the basketball game? So I know the guys got a huge game against New Mexico. So if you're listening and if you got time, come on out, 6 o'clock. We'll talk about the class, ask and answer questions. Any of the players that are currently on campus, new players, will be at that event, so you can actually meet those guys and see them in person, and you can head over to the basketball game and get loud, crazy for Ryan and the guys. Appreciate it, folks.